If your bait casting reel is feeling a little bit clunky, you're not getting that casting distance, maybe you dropped it in the water or you simply haven't lubricated it since you bought it, guys, you're in the right place. Daren Wendell here with Wendell Fishing, and I'm gonna walk you through the 13 critical places you're gonna wanna lubricate your bait casting reel. Let's hop in. Okay, there's gonna be around 6 things that you need to complete the task of oiling and greasing your bait caster to make it feel like the day you bought it. And first is going to be the oil. I like the Lucas fishing reel oil. Put that here. You're gonna need a white towel. We'll get to that in a moment. A small screwdriver, a paintbrush. I like the Penn Precision reel grease, and a 10mm socket or wrench. I have a socket just because it's a little more convenient for me to get. All right, now let's take this bad boy off the rod and let's start oiling this thing down in some of the basic places, and then we'll get a little bit more technical and open this bad boy up. So essentially what we want to do once you get the reel off your rod is tape down the line, or if you don't have a line on it, you're good to go, but I just use a little bit of electrical tape. And let's get some of the real easy places to lube with the oil. And so the first place you're going to want to look, and a lot of times this is where it has a lot of the dirt, it's going to be the clutch button push. So that right there. And so you're going to want a couple drops of oil in there on both sides, and then you want to work that in. A lot of times this is what's really dirty. So next I'm going to do the handles. So do a drop right down there in the handle, another drop right here in this handle, spin those around, get that oil worked in both sides. Next, all right, let's go ahead and move your line roller right here all the way to one side. Let's go all the way to the right side, and then I'm going to put a little bit of oil on that rail. Just kind of slide it across. Go ahead and work that in. All right, now if you guys can see that, there is a worm gear. Kind of better to see it right here. It goes back and forth. Now, if you're in a pinch and all you have is the Lucas reel oil, you can go and stick something in it. It's not going to last very long. And so typically when it comes to gears, you're going to want to use grease. So let's go ahead and move this over to one side. Let's go grab some of this Penn Precision grease, and this is why I have the paintbrush. So get a little bit of that on there. Let's go ahead and paint that in to that worm gear. Get it spread out in there. Move that to the other side. Paint some of this grease on the other side. Get that in there. Move that in there. Roll it back and forth. All right. Put that over here. We'll come back to the grease in just a moment. Next, what we're going to do is remove the side plate. Sometimes when you open these up, they completely come off, and sometimes they're static and they're actually stuck on there. And so when you take this off, as you can see, this is magnetic. There's a bearing right here, so I'm going to put a drop or two of oil in that bearing. And then also, don't forget, put one little drop of oil down in this hole, and I'll tell you why in 1 second. Boom, let it sit down there. Because this spool here is what sits down in there, and you want this spinning as smoothly as you possibly can. So I want to reduce as much friction as you possibly can. So I'll clean that spindle head on both sides here. Now, down in here, I want to do the same thing. Drop one drop of oil right in the middle. You can't see the bearing, we'll get to that one, but nonetheless, that is what you want to do with the spool. Go ahead and stick that back in there. Put the cap back on. All right, now to get to the other bearing, what you're going to have to do is remove the spool tensioner knob right here. Let's go ahead and twist that off. All right, as you can see right there is the second bearing. So let's go ahead and put a little oil in that bearing. There we go. Put the spool tensioner knob back on. Make sure you don't force that. It should go on really nicely. So if you're getting a little tight, pull it back. Make sure that goes on there and the thread's nice. All right, so when it comes to oil and grease, I get this question in the comments a lot. Should or can I use WD-40? And the answer to that question is no. WD-40 works as a degreaser. It's going to break down the oil, break down that grease. So you don't want to use WD-40. The next question I get often is, can I use Vaseline? You can use whatever you want, but I would not use Vaseline because when it gets hot outside, if you fish during the summer, that is just going to melt and ooze out of your reel. So highly recommend do not use Vaseline. All right, another question I get is, can I use REM oil? And this kind of falls into the category of use what you got, but REM oil has a high viscosity and it's really hard to distribute kind of evenly. So I would go with the Lucas. It's not that expensive. I'll throw the links to all this stuff, including the Penn reel grease in the description below. But you can use it. However, I wouldn't if you can't. But if it's all you got, use it in a pinch. All right, the next one I get is, can I use silicone grease? This stuff right here. Like Vaseline, silicone grease is also a bad idea. The reason is really simple. Silicone does have mineral oil properties, and although it can repel most corrosive elements in a given environment, it lacks friction strength, so I would not use this. Stick to this. All right, let's move on. All right, now we're going to get into the gears and grease some of those, and it may be really easy for you. It might be really difficult. It really depends on the type of reel you have. I'll give you a perfect example. This is my Lube Mach 2. As you can see right here, there's a lubrication port. However, if you go over to my Shimano SLX, you will see on the bottom here, this right here is not a lubrication port. That is just a drain hole. So don't try to shove oil down there. It'll make a mess because it'll thin out your grease. But if you have one of these Mach 2s, which is a very popular reel, all you have to do, let me show you how to do it on this. Let's go and open this up. Pop the port. And there you go. And all that is just a tiny little piece of plastic. But now you can see the gears down in there. And so what you're going to do is go and take your paintbrush, go ahead, paint some on, move it, paint some on, move it. Or you can just kind of move it while your paintbrush is in there if you want. There we go. Now I can see as I run this through, as that gear is hitting another gear, it's painting it on all the gears evenly. And man, I tell you what, if that is your setup, if you have a Mach 2 or if you're thinking about getting a reel and you don't want to spend a lot of time doing this, this is really, really nice. So we'll put this back in there, screw back in. This reel is lubed and ready to go. However, if you have an SLX or you don't have a lubrication port, you're going to have to take this entire assembly apart, which I'm going to show you how to do. So let's go ahead and move forward with that. Now, before you do this is why I recommend you doing it on a white towel, because there's a lot of parts from here all the way to your gear that you're going to keep track of in the order of which you took it off. And some of the times the stuff in here is spring loaded. And so if it does pop off, you don't want this going into your carpet. You're never going to find it again. So let's go ahead and first let's take off this screw cap. There we go. Tiny little screw up here. Top left. Take the cap off. Cap's off. Right next to it. 10mm socket. Take that off pretty easily. There we go. Next. All right, now when you take the handle off, as you can see here, I'm putting pressure on the star drag because this is spring loaded. So take the handle here, all this stuff's up here in order. Wiggle the star drag off slowly. On top of the star drag, let's go ahead and grab that piece. All right, so you can see there's little knobs in there. This is what makes that clicky sound. This is pressure loaded. That is super tiny. So that's pressure loaded, so slowly take this off here. And what I'm going to do is actually just leave this in here like this. So a star drag, got a spring here. And so as you can see, I want to put it exactly the way it came out because that spring on the bottom looks a little different than it does on top. And so let's take that right there. Take the aluminum nut. I can hand do that one. Underneath this aluminum nut, likely going to be a variety of washers as well. So sometimes they'll stick to the bottom. So let's take the aluminum nut off and check the bottom of it and see if it's sitting there. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. All right, let's take a look. No washer, but as you can see, it's going on a very specific way. On the bottom, it's carved out, so you want shiny on top. Put that in order. It got a variety of washers here. 1, 2, 3. 3 washers. So I'm going to leave those together in a bundle the way they came off. You can see I got like some hair or something down in here. So that is not what you want down here in the gear assembly. All right, now no more pieces here. Now what we're going to do is flip it off on the inside. We're going to have to take this cap off. In order to do that, I got 1 screw, 2 screw, 3 screws, it looks like 4 screws. Let's go ahead and take those off. Alright, so this was inside, and what you'll probably find out is that not every single one of these screws is the right thread or even the right size. So let's pay attention to that. These, see, this one's longer than that one. So long one is going to go on the inside here. Short one's going on the outside, simply because I'll remember that because there's just no room for it to go further. But short one, long one. So these are the inside screws. Let's do the outside screws. This one's probably going to be short too. Not a lot of room for it to be in there. All right, outside screws. I don't know if you guys can see this either. It's different threading, right? The thread on this one is a lot different than the thread on that one. All right, so outside left. Now, when you take this cap off, you just don't want to go pull it off the side or have this thing upside down and pull it down, because there's a lot of free floating springs and stuff in here. So you want this up and slowly take it off. Slowly take it off. Now you see what I'm talking about here, right? So these springs right here are just sitting in here and they could pop off. There's a lot of pieces in here. So you want to keep this upright. So keeping that upright, all right, I'm going to pop a little oil in here. Other side as well. This stuff moves if it needs to be. Now we're in here with the gears. So I'm putting the oil away and bringing the grease out. All right, so we got the main drive gear, and I believe this is called a pinion gear. So what we're gonna do, this looks pretty dry. Look at that. I don't know why you can see that, but there's nothing on this right now. So let's go ahead and paint main drive gear all the way around. When you buy this grease, like, it'll last for a long time because you don't need an absolute ton of it to put on here. All right, so just by default, I'll go ahead and put some while I'm in here. Might as well, even though the grease is going to transfer to the pinion. Let's put some of that in there and go ahead and spin that around, get it moved. Now also, don't miss this guy. There's actually a gear, it's a pretty fat gear, on the bottom side. You're going to get in here and paint it. This is nice to have a paintbrush. It's hard to see, but I am definitely getting it. Now let's put this all back together the way we just had it. Put the cap back on. Should go on as smooth as butter, just like that. Outside screws. Now don't get all riled up. I know this is a lubrication video, not a cleaning and lubrication video. I can't tell you how many people. I'll create a video for that too, how to clean it. But right now this is just lubrication. So all y'all in the comments are all riled up because I didn't clean this thing before I lubed it. Y'all need to calm down. Aluminum washer. Make sure that thread's perfect. So keep backing it out. You shouldn't have to force this. Spring, star drag, keep your finger on top of that. It will fall off. Now line up for you nicely. Handle, 10mm nut. Tighten that up. All right, the unique part about the cap here is that this has got to line up. See, there's only one place for that screw to go. And, oh, I got lucky. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't, because this cap only fits a certain way on top of that nut. And so you can tell I got it perfect. Not, you're gonna have to move that nut around. All right, two really important things. Number one questions I get is how often should I do this? And the problem with me giving you a time-based answer is that my 3 months fishing might mean I'm out in the water 60 times, and your 3 months fishing might mean you're on the water 7 times. And so I usually do the oil by feel. I feel something funky. And I do a grease. I get in there and do what I just did today, probably once a year, unless I drop my reel in the water. Now, another key thing to do, don't make this mistake. A lot of times you'll do this to all your reels and you'll forget. When you get out in the water, you'll feel a hit. It's going to be a monster, and you're going to set it, and you didn't reset your drag. And so make sure you set your drag. Make sure you set your tensioner knob before you go back out again, so you don't lose that first fish of the year or that first fish after you got done lubricating your reel. Now, I would imagine if you are doing this to your bait casters, you're also going to want to do it to your spinning reels, and I got the video for you right there. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you.